Welcome back to Homeschooling Mama, with a summertime is coming up. And in our city, I know in most cities, but definitely in my city, the libraries within the city do a reading program for everybody of all ages, from infant to adult, right? There's a summer reading program. And many of our local bookstores do that as well. I think the summer reading program is a great program to have. The purpose of the summer reading program is to keep people reading, to get kids engaged, to get people engaged in reading, and to keep them reading, and so that the brain doesn't go on vacation while the children are on summer vacation, right? That doesn't really affect my household because we homeschool all year long. However, I do appreciate a good summer reading program because I think reading is very important. Reading does a lot of things. Number one, we teach spelling in school, right? We teach our children, we have a course called spelling, right, where we teach our kids to spell. Well, one of the greatest ways to help children with their spelling is by reading, because you're reading so many words. You're learning how to spell them by reading them, and it just increases your vocabulary and your ability to spell greatly. Also, because it helps you with writing, it teaches you writing skills because you start learning the way that the flow of the language of writing, how it should sound, how it should go. So a lot of times kids may not understand what an adverb is, but they know how to use them because they know how they're used by reading. Reading teaches you a lot about writing. It helps you become a better writer. You understand the flow of it, the dynamics of how it should go. A lot of times, you can understand how a comma is supposed to be used, a colon, a semicolon, because you're familiar with it by your reading. So reading does a lot of things, as well as expand our mind and educate us on other things. So I create my own homeschool reading program, summer program. Every year we do our own summer reading program. We also use the one in the city. It's a secondary thing, but I'll explain that to you later. Hopefully I won't forget, and I'll get back to you on that. But I create it for us every year, and every year it's a little bit different. The reason why I created ours is because what the city does is good. It was good for my family when they were real little bitties and really little, but as my children started growing, I felt like the summer reading program that our city did not reach the goals that I have for my family and for my children, as well as I thought that it was not requiring what I would like. It just didn't fit what I wanted for my family. So basically in our city, the basic goal is to read 8 books for our city's library, to read 8 books throughout the summer. Have the books read and turn it in by a certain date. At one point there was a small page requirement, but it wasn't a really challenging requirement, at least not for my children in those age groups. They don't do that anymore. Now it's just 8 books. You can read 8 books or have them read to you, and that's it. Last year they had it for, I think if you were 14, 15 and up, 13 and up, something like that. They wanted you to read a certain amount of pages, but it wasn't a lot of pages. I didn't think it was a lot of pages for a child that age. I think that they should be able to read more. So I think that for our city, the main goal is just to get people reading. They don't care what you read, just read. Me, on the other hand, there are some things that are important to me and that I put into our homeschool reading, our homeschool or our home summer reading program, right? Because you can call it homeschool or just home because, we're going to do it regardless. Even if I wasn't homeschooling, we would probably still do this. So in our home reading summer program, what is important to me, there's some things important to me. There are some things that I found that I need to change for my family. So you need to make it. If you decide to do your own homeschool summer reading program, tailor make it for your family, where they are, your goals, and what suits for your family. So I don't like for my children just to read fiction or fantasy. It's really important for me that my children are learning, not just dream world, right? I want them to actually learn. So I put in requirements of how many has to be fiction, how many has to be nonfiction. And really, you don't have to have any fiction in it, but you definitely have to read this many that are nonfiction. And then of the other ones that you have to read, it's your choice if it's fiction or nonfiction. Now, my children basically most often get to choose the books that they're going to read. Every now and again, I'll say everybody needs to read something on this subject, to learn something about this. Sometimes that's a good thing when you're trying to get to a goal or you want to expand your children on something, to choose a subject area and they have to read books within their subject areas. But most often for the summer program, I will allow them to choose what they want to choose, their nonfiction books on in their subjects. However, everything is approved by me. So I don't allow my children to have their own library card. I do that because I want to see what they're checking out. I want it approved. It needs to go through me. I need to be aware of everything. Also, my dogs are upstairs. They're supposed to be downstairs. The kids will get them. But also because I need to be aware of when things are due and when they need to be checked back in. In our city, our local library, even though you're a parent, if your child has their own library card, you are not allowed to inquire anything on that library card, which I think is stupid, because if they owe something, you're gonna come to me and want me to pay for it. So I have a right to see what my kids are doing. But that's me. You do what's on you, right? Whatever's good for you and your family, you do what's good for you. So I do approve every book. I look through everything, make sure that the content is pretty good, skim through it, read the front, read the back, do some stuff like that, and then I'll either give a yay or a nay for a book. So I am aware of everything that my children are reading. So they have so many that's nonfiction they have to read, and then they have so many that they can choose if it's nonfiction or not. Because at the end of the summer, you have a minimal amount of books that need to be read, and then you can read more than that, and we will reward accordingly to those that have done more. Because basically what we do is we kind of have where we start giving, one year I did it like this, where we gave awards for whoever read the most book, whoever read the most pages. So we kind of do it like that. We usually do that every year, but I remember when I started the year that I started doing that. So everybody reads, everybody ends up being a winner, but we do single out who read the most pages, who read the most books, and what else? It was another one. It was the third one I did. But then, we do that, and then we give awards at the end of the summer for those who came in those places, for that, who won in those areas. But basically, I have a certain amount of books that everyone needs to read by the summer. 8 books can seem like a lot, right? It can seem like a lot, but you need to decide if you want, how long your summer is. Because we homeschool, your summer could be 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months, however long your summer is, and determine how much time your child should have per book to get through. Do you want your kid reading through a book in 1 week, or do you want them reading through in 2 weeks? I have a fast reader. My daughter can devour a 300-400 page book in a matter of a day or two. She's a fast reader. She has a great comprehension, and she loves to read. So she can devour a book quite quickly. So for me to tell her to read a 8 100-page books in the summer is not going to challenge her, and she's going to get that done in the first week of summer, and she's done with it. That's not going to keep her progressing. So I have to tailor make my summer program for each of my kids. So for that daughter, I'm going to give her probably more books, because I know she's an avid reader. She's going to read 4 to 5 books in a week anyway. On top of everything else she's got on her schedule, she's going to get that reading in, and her books are most likely going to be pretty thick. So I'm going to set a high bar for her. So if she's reading a book that's between 100 to 200 pages, she has to have so many of these kinds in. If she's reading 300 to 400 page books, she has to have so many of those kind read by the end of the summer. So it's kind of tailor-made for her. Now I have another daughter who is very active. She's hands-on, she's tactile, but she's a great reader, but she really just don't care to read. She gets bored with reading. She likes activity. So for her, I have to kind of tailor-make that program a little bit different to make sure that she's reading. I am not going to put no requirements on her for no 300 to 400 page books, because she's not going to read a 300 to 400 page book. If you give her the whole year to do it, she'll skim through it. She'll read the chapters and the parts that's interesting to her, but if it gets boring, she's done with the book. So for her, I will give her a lower amount of pages that she would need to read. And I'm still going to give her a certain requirement of how many she's got to read. She's not going to be let up on just because of the rest. However, I'm not going to have as strict of requirements on her. And I'm going to try to tell her make the nonfiction books things that are of interest to her. Because I have to find books and help her with her to make sure she's getting things that's going to captivate her, that's going to grab her attention, keep her focused so that she can continue on through that book. So I have 5 kids. So when I tailor make it, every grade, every age, every stage kind of have something that is tailor made for them. How many books they need to read, how many pages the book needs to be. It's kind of tailor made towards each of them. There is a little leeway in there because sometimes there are some books that the children are interested in that the children may want to read that may not have a lot of pages, and sometimes some nonfiction books don't have a lot of pages. So if the children want to read about George Washington, they may be getting George Washington books, but it may only be 25 pages long. They may be reading some 100-page, 200-page books, but they may have read a book that's 25 to 50 pages long. I don't dock them for that all the time, just as long as that most of the books they're reading aren't 25-page books and it's not challenging. If it's a nonfiction book and you read that book, and I looked through the book to make sure it wasn't a big picture book, but it was a book that was giving some really good information, really good detail, I'll give them credit for that. So we do that every summer. Now, because I require more books and more things for my children than the city does, our local libraries do, I do my own homeschool or my own home summer reading program. My requirement is a lot greater than what the school is requiring. Then after they turn in their pages for me, sometimes we'll put up a poster board, and we'll have everybody's name, and they're writing their books down because they're tracking to see, they're competing with each other to make sure I'm going to get the award for have read the most books. I'm going to get the award for have reading the most pages. So we like to put those up so they can see what everybody's doing, and it helps them to spur them on to keep doing what they need to be doing, right? And making sure they're reading, and they get really excited about it, and they get real competitive, and it's a lot of fun, right? But because my requirements are more, you know what I do at the end when I get that list of what everybody's read? We go to the library, we get the paper that you have to sign in, you guys, and we just transfer. They only want 8, just take 8 of those books off your list, put them on there, and we turn it into the library. They get their certificate, they get to pick their free book, and they get to go to the party. So we do participate in it, but it is secondary in that sense, that it's not our main program. They're doing the program that I create at home, and then we put it on there and participate in everything that the city has for us to participate in that. It's a lot of fun for my family. Also with the reading program, what I do is I have one of my children who is, all of my children are good readers. I have one who doesn't read as smoothly as I would like for that child to read. So a lot of times we do it out loud, and that child's book, that child of mine reads their book to me out loud, and it's a great bonding moment, a bonding time, and we go through our stories together. But I do try to at least sit with my children and let each of them read to me. I am always asking questions while they're reading their stories and involved in their story, because it's a little hard when you have 5 kids to have to do every book with every kid. But I do have them, even my older one who reads the 400-page books. Most times she doesn't read to me, sometimes she does, but most times she doesn't. But I'm always asking her, where are you at, what's going on? I'm highly involved in the story with her, asking questions about it all the way through, making sure they're reading it and getting comprehension. But it's a great thing. If you don't do summer reading programs, I would highly suggest you do it. Your family will really like it and really enjoy it. At least mine do, if you have readers, and it'll help your kids to learn how to enjoy reading and keep them going. Hope something in there was helpful for you. Until next time, bye.